and look at the order of operation with rational numbers. Let's review our order of operations before we begin. Remember, we begin with inside our parentheses. Next, we do exponents. Next, we multiply or divide, and again, depending on whichever one is left to right. And the last thing we do is add or subtract, again, left to right. So take a moment and copy down these notes if you need to. The abbreviation for order of operations is PEMDAS, PEMDAS. Let's go ahead and begin in looking at our first problem. I'm going to add 3 plus 4 and 1/5 times 2 and 1/3. Now, according to my order of operations, we do parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide, add or subtract. In this problem, parentheses means to multiply, so I'm going to do this part first. Okay. So over here on the right-hand side, let's go ahead and multiply 4 and 1/5 times 2 and 1/3. Now these are mixed fractions, so we're going to have to convert them to improper fractions. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus the 1 on top gives me 21/5. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 on top gives me 7/3. Now I double check before I multiply across. I look from upper left to lower right, and I noticed that I can go ahead and cancel. In other words, 3 divides into 21 7 times. 3 goes into itself 1 time, and 3 divides into 21 7 times. I try the same thing by looking at the other two numbers, but 5 does not divide into 7 evenly, and there isn't any other number that divides into both. So let's multiply the numerator. 7 times 7 is 49. 5 times 1 is 5. In order to simplify my answer, I'm going to divide. 5 goes into 49. 9 times 5 is 45. My remainder is 4, and I write my remainder as a fraction. So the answer to this part was 9 4/5. Let's bring down the 3, and I have 3 plus 9 4/5. So 3 plus 9 4/5 gives me 12 4/5. Let's check to see if this simplifies. I know that 4 does not go into 5 evenly. 5 is prime, so there isn't any factor that divides into both of them. So no, it does not simplify. So this gives me 12 4/5. Okay, let's try another one. So let's look at the next problem, in which we have 3 minus 3/5 times 1/2. In looking at my order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I have a choice between subtraction and multiplication. So we don't have parentheses, we don't have exponents, so we're going to multiply next. So let's go ahead and write the problem here. I have 3 minus 3/5 times 1/2, and let's multiply. 3/5 times 1/2. I look at the upper left and the lower right, and I ask myself if anything simplifies. Does 2 go into 3 evenly? No, it doesn't. So then I look at the other two numbers, and I notice that that's a 1, and there's nothing there to reduce. So there's nothing to do here. So let's go back to the original problem. I have 3/5 times 1/2, nothing canceled, so we're going to multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3, 5 times 2 is 10. And because nothing canceled, I know that this is the lowest terms. I could double check and see if there's a common factor. 3 is prime. 3 does not go into 10, so no. So let's copy our problem over, and I have 3 minus 3/10. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is subtract. So 3 minus 3/10. I cannot subtract 0 minus 3, so I'm going to have to regroup. I look at the 3, and that's going to become 2 and 10/10. In order to subtract, I'm going to have to decompose the 3 into 2 and 10/10. Why did we choose 10 over 10? Because that's my common denominator, 10. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 and 10/10 so that we can subtract. Whenever we have common denominator, we subtract the numerator. 10 minus 3 is 7 over 10, and bring down the 2. Double check that nothing simplifies. 7 is prime, so there is not any common factors between these two numbers. And so we're done. So my answer is 2 and 7/10. Let's try another problem. We're going to add 2/3 plus 1/4, and then multiply the whole quantity times 2 1/2 minus 1 3/4. Again, looking at our order of operations, we do parentheses, but I do notice that this parenthesis is touching the other parenthesis, and so that means to multiply. So we're going to start with the inside of the parentheses on the left. We're going to do the inside of the parentheses on the right, and then we're going to multiply the two answers together. So let's get started here. So we have 2/3 plus 1/4 times 2 1/2 minus 1 3/4. Okay, so we're going to begin with the parentheses on the left. So I have 2/3 plus 1/4. Before I can add any fractions, I must find a common denominator. So let's make a list of multiples of 3 and 4. 3, 6, 9, 4, 8, 12. I keep multiplying until they match. So my common denominator is 12. Okay. 3 divides into 12 4 times. But remember, we have to write it as a 1. 4 over 4 is 1. So 3 times 4 equals 12. 2 times 4 is 8. I'm going to find another 1 here to multiply. 4 goes into 12 3 times, but I must write it as 3 over 3, which is 1. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. Now remember, we're only adding the numerators. I'm going to add 8 plus 3, 11 over 12. We're keeping the same denominator of 12. Okay, there's no whole numbers here to add, so we're done. Let's double check to see if this simplifies. Whenever we're down to a prime number, such as 11, remember our prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so on. These numbers only have factors of itself and 1, so nothing goes into 11. So there isn't any common factor between 11 and 12, so we're done. So the parenthesis on the left is 11/12. Let's continue, and now we're going to subtract the parentheses on the right. So here I have 2 1/2 minus 1 3/4. Common denominator is 4. So 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Here I have a 4 and a 4, so we're simply going to put 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, so now I see, can I subtract 3 from 2? No. I'm going to have to regroup. So I notice that the 2 is going to be decomposed into 1 and 4/4. Why 4 over 4? Because that's my common denominator. So let's go ahead and write it down. The 2 is going to become 1 and 4/4. So 4 plus 2, that gives me 6 over 4, minus 3 over 4 is 3/4. 6 minus 3 is 3. I look at my whole numbers and 1 minus 1 is 0. Double check, does this simplify? 3 is a prime number. 3 does not divide into 4, so no, we're done. So now let's write it in our original. On the left-hand side, I have 11 over 12 times 3 over 4. Let's go ahead and multiply now. So I have 11 over 12 times 3 over 4. I do notice that I'm able to cancel 3 into 12, so 3 goes into itself 1 time, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. I try that with the 4 and the 11. 4 does not go into 11, and so there's nothing to do there. So let's multiply across. 11 times 1 is 11. 4 times 4 is 16. 11 is a prime number. 11 and 16 do not share any common factors, and so we are done. So my final answer is 11 over 16. Let's look at one more problem. So let's look at 2 3/4 minus 7/8, all divided by 5/16. Now, remember our order of operations. We're going to do inside our parentheses first. When we're finished, we're going to divide by 5/16. So let's begin the problem. Beginning with a parenthesis, we're going to subtract 2 3/4 minus 7/8. I need to find a common denominator so that I could add or subtract, in this case subtract, and I notice that my common multiple is 8. Okay. Now I need to rename my fraction with my new common denominator. So here I have a 4. 4 divides into 8 2 times. So let's check that. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6. Now this bottom fraction already has an 8, so I'm simply going to put a 1. 8 times 1 is 8. 7 times 1 is 7. I am not able to subtract 7 from 6, so we're going to have to regroup. Now I notice that I have a 2, so that 2 is going to become 1 and 8/8. So let's go ahead and place it here, 1 and 8/8. 8 plus 6 is 14 over 8 minus 7 over 8 gives me 7/8. and bring down my whole number, which is 1. So I end up with 1 7/8. Check to see if it simplifies. 7 is prime. 7 does not go into 8, so no, we're done. 1 7/8 divided by 5/16. The next step in this problem is to divide. So I have 1 7/8 divided by 5/16. In order to divide this mixed fraction or mixed number, I'm going to have to convert it to an improper fraction. 1 times 8 is 8 plus the 7 on top, divided by 5/16. That we are going to take the reciprocal of the number on the right, of the fraction on the right. So let's go ahead and copy it over as 15/8 times. Notice that my division becomes a multiplication problem, and that leaves me 16/5. Let's go ahead and cancel. I'm looking at the 5 into 15, yes. So 5 divides it to 15 3 times. I also notice that 8 divides into 16. So 8 goes into itself 1 time, and 8 goes into 16 2 times. Let's multiply across. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 divided by 1 is just 6. Notice on these problems that I chose to copy the problem on the left and show my work on the right. This way it avoids confusion of trying to cram all your work in on the left side. So on the left side, we're simply putting the answers, but we're showing our work on the right. I hope these problems have helped.